Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chelloveck Movies. My name is John, and this video is going to be 10 movies that I think would look pretty good on 4K. Now this is basing these 10 movies on that have a decent source material like 35mm print or even bigger. I think most of these movies would have that. What I did was I had a look around my shelves and I thought these movies could look in my mind really good. I tried them out on my new TV and they all looked exceptional. But first I'd like to give an honourable mention to, of course, The Exorcist. Now this movie is going to have its 50th anniversary next year, 2023. And this movie, when I put it on, I thought, does this look really good or not? And it does look absolutely spectacular. Plus it's a Warner Brothers movie, which a lot of Warner Brothers things, when they get put out, do get put out, and they look absolutely stunning. So I put this on, and it's crystal clear. The colours are absolutely brilliant, and I do think, especially at night, the HDR would look exceptional on this upgrade. Also, I'm a big fan of including the original audio on here. But what I will say, for most of these movies, they deserve a Dolby Atmos soundtrack if you wanted it. Because I think with an Atmos with this, especially the stuff going on like in the attic and stuff like that, and kind of behind doors, I think it would sound absolutely stunning, as well as because I think the audio on here won an Oscar anyway. So yeah, I think that this has got to come out next year in an all bells and whistles special edition, and I'll be the first in the queue to get it. So that's an honourable mention to The Exorcist. So speaking of anniversary editions, next I've got Westworld. Now this was released in 1973, so this is coming to its 50th anniversary. And I put this on because I've always thought this movie looked great, and it's one of my favourite movies. And obviously Hugh Brynner, when he does when he plays the robot that goes a renegade robot, it's one of the best performances I've seen in the movie. And I remember seeing this when I was young on the TV, and I just couldn't get it. I couldn't believe how menacing that Hugh Brynner was, where he would not stop at anything, a bit like the Terminator, to get what he wanted, and this is to actually kill somebody. So this movie, it does look spectacular because it's shot mainly outside, and then it does go dark when they're underground in the end bits. So for me, the HDR would play a good part in that, making this movie look a bit more exceptional than it already does. This American Blu Ray looks really nice. It's multi-region as well, and of course because the Westworld TV series is doing quite well at the minute, it seems like a no-brainer to put this out in 4K. Now, I'm going to say that, to my knowledge, none of these have been even talked about in 4K, but if they have, I apologise, because I'm just going off the 10 I've just picked out, thinking they don't have a 4K upgrade as far as I know, or they're not even talked about. Even The Exorcist, which is coming out next year, I've never heard anybody really say for a definitive thing to say, yes, we are doing that next year. Everyone's presuming that, but it's got to come out. The same with this one, with Westworld, try staying that after 10 shots of red eye. Being quite in the public consciousness at the minute, I do think this is the perfect time, well, next year, to release this movie. Really hope that they do, and it's just such a great movie as well. So that's Westworld. Next is the movie that I saw on TV, and I thought the print looked absolutely spectacular on it. Now, I've got the Blu-ray of it, which is released by Studio Canal, believe it or not, and I've got to say that the Blu-ray does have speckles on it. It's pretty sharp, and it looks pretty good. It's a black and white movie as well. And I do think that this needs a good overhaul, and if they can go about the proper negatives, and Studio Canal do this all the time. This is why I've picked some things from Studio Canal, because you know that they're doing a lot of work with the 4K restorations, and this is a movie that really needs to have one. As well, I've read the book as well, and the ending of the book is absolutely spectacular, although the film is slightly different to the book. So this movie is Brighton Rock. Now, this is a classic. And I must admit, I didn't think that Richard Attenborough could pull it off to be this menacing character, Pinky Brown. But he does a really good I think because the fact he's such a young-looking person, I think they are meant to be young in this in the book anyway, to be this menacing type, like a thug in Brighton. And it's a great story. And of course, it's got the whole vista of Brighton, which is great to think that you can have this time capsule of a city, which is now probably a little bit different, especially at the seafront, maybe. So this movie is from 1948, and it does have a performance in here from William Hartnell as well, the first Doctor Who looks quite young in it. So for me, I do think that most of these movies are going to be like older movies to a certain extent, and I think that this could look, it does need an overhaul, because when I got this, the print on the TV looked better than the one in here. Actually, this says it was digitally restored edition, but somebody's to put this on, and I don't think they've done the full restoration on it. But if they can get rid of all the speckles on here, I think this would look absolutely sensational. That's Brighton Rock. Next up is a movie I used to watch on a loop, And I've had this Blu-ray for a bit and I haven't watched the Blu-ray, so I put it on just to see if I thought it might have been like a pretty poor Blu-ray, because some Blu-rays are. But I would no doubt think that this would look sensational if you go into the original negatives. It is Cape Fear. This is a great movie. Robert De Niro's performance in here is second to none. This is when, for me, Robert De Niro could do no wrong. These days, I'm not so sure. He sometimes churns out movies and you think, what on earth am I watching? He's really let a standard slip for me. And I think this is when everything he did, you were waiting for the next Robert De Niro movie coming out. And in here, he plays this criminal and he's absolutely menacing. The music on here is absolutely, I forgot how good it was when I put it on and I had the theme tune. It's really, really menacing. And the whole vibe of this movie is the fact that this bloke here, a bit relentless as well, he won't stop at anything to get what he wants, revenge, is exceptional. I like the way that my cousin pointed this out to me, that when something bad was going to happen in the movie, i.e. he was going to start something with somebody, the movie went in black and white, and you knew something was going to come up. And it was usually very over-the-top violence. But this is an absolute classic, and it did look really good on Blu-ray, much better than I thought it was going to look. So for me, this would look sensational on 4K. That's one of the reasons why when I did this, I went and had a good look at these movies to see when I put it on, it might look a bit substandard, so I'd leave it off the list. There was a few that I picked and I thought, well, I don't think they would transit very, very well to 4K. But if they had this good look on Blu-ray, I do think they could strike a good 4K restoration from it. So that's Cape Fear. Next up, it seems like Alfred Hitchcock movies seem to be seeing the light of day on 4K at the moment. That rhymes. So I've picked here a movie that no one seems to talk about in the same ways they do with most of his other classics, and I consider this to be one of the top 3 favourite Alfred Hitchcock movies. It is Strangers on a Train. This is in black and white, and sometimes you get these ones on black and white. There was a couple on black and white that I put on, think they would look great, like The Third Man, that had a 4K restoration, and it's very grainy, and I think if it's that grainy on the 4K Blu-ray, it might look ultra grainy on 4K, so that's why I left it off this list. But this one here it's a pin sharp print, and I mean pin sharp. But this movie, if you haven't seen this movie, this is one of the best. It's kind of like this tale. I don't want to go too much into it because it'll give some of the stuff away, but it's these two strangers meet on the train and they talk about who they would like to kill in their life, and I'll just leave it there. And yeah, so this fella here, Robert Walker, who plays Bruno Anthony, he's got to be one of the best bad guys going. He's so creepy, and actually he died when he was just after he made this movie, so I don't know, he didn't reach his full potential, because I think he could have went places and been a sort of really big megastar after the performance in here, but he never got that point. But it looks, and I think some of these movies, I wouldn't go for Dolby Atmos on here, but I would go on likes of Cape Fear and also Westworld. I think that they deserve it, and also The Exorcist. This one here would probably sound good on just even stereo or just mono even, but it's such a good movie, you've got to see it, and such a good print. That's Strangers on a Train. Next up, keeping things black and white, and this was released on the Vintage Classics label, and I know some of these are coming on to 4K. I've got School for Scoundrels. This is a great movie from 1960, black and white, and the acting in here is great. The whole storyline about this fella who's a confidence trickster. He's tricking everybody into his way, like a scoundrel, and he's trying to get this lady off him. It's like a love triangle thing, but there's a lot of twists and turns, so it's an Ealing comedy as well, which I love. All the Ealing comedies, I think, are so good. But when I put this on, I honestly thought that this one was pretty scratched up and it had a bit of a soft look to it, but it doesn't. It looks really, really sharp. When you flick through the chapters, it usually starts at the bit where it's transitioning from one scene to the other. And when they did that, the quality dropped until they sort of got to the next shot, which they got rid of the dissolve in it. And then you got like a true understanding what the picture was like. So really, if you just went flick, 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 it would look bad, bad, bad. But if you wait a minute or two, you see how good the picture is. So that's what I did with these ones. And this one here, but it's been in its Vintage Classics range, which are releasing things like The Lady Killers on 4K. I've got every feeling that this would hopefully see the light of day on there, because it's a massive film. It was a massive film back in the day. Such a well-known comedy. And one that as soon as I saw it on the TV, I just thought, I've got to have this on Blu-ray. So that's Scoundrels. Wow.
Where's me ladders?
That's School for Scoundrels. Okay, so after putting my teeth in, next up I have Hindenburg. Now this looks, I knew this would look sensational. I saw this once on TV and I couldn't believe how good it looked. I think it was on BBC Two in widescreen. And I got this on Blu Ray with steelbook. This is an HMV steelbook with this Japanese writing on, and I think it looks really nice. I'm not a big fan of steelbooks, but I think this one is really nice in here. And the movie does look incredible. I knew it would. But when I put it on my new TV, it just made up a little bit more my estimations, which I don't know how it could because it was so good anyway. So this movie was made in 1975, supposedly telling the true story of what could have happened for the Hindenburg disaster and how it could have blown up. It's great how they've done it, actually. It does fit in. It's a fantasy, but it does kind of fit in as the way it went down. And just the colours on here is the star for me on this one. I mean, it's pin sharp. It shouldn't look as good, really. That's one of the first ones when I saw it. I was like, hang on, 1975, and this looks this good. This was one of the first ones where I thought, you know, these older films can look good. So because this looks this good on Blu-ray, I've got no doubt this will look absolutely sensational on 4K. I do think this would be a showcase for Dolby Atmos as well, because of the whole Zeppelin flying through the air and obviously that rumbling of the engines going all the time during the movie when it's actually flying. So this is a great movie with a great cast. That's Hindenburg. So speaking of vintage classics, this is the one that I think will definitely get a 4K release. It is The Man Who Fell to Earth. Now, Studio Canal as well. I mean, this is begging for something like that because it's got a great soundtrack on it, and also it looks absolutely pin sharp. Remember, this is one of the first ones I saw on Blu-ray that I thought, hang on a minute, this is like the best looking Blu-ray I've ever seen at the time. This even wasn't this version. This is a brand new remastered version. It doesn't say it's a 4K remaster, but I would imagine it is. Even if it's a 2K remaster, they probably have got the original negatives. So for me, this movie's always looked brilliant, whether or not I've seen it on TV or DVD. And it was one of the ones where I knew when I was looking through the shelves, I had a few in mind, just to pull out and just to see if it was good as I thought it was. And this one was as good as I thought it was. It looks great. The colours look great on here as well. David Bowie wears quite a lot of clothes in this movie, and he's got a lot of clothes changes, and he's got his vibrant hair in here as well. So it all just comes to life. Yes, the movie doesn't really make too much sense, but I don't really mind that because it's just a great visual treat. So this was made in 1976, so it doesn't have an anniversary on the corner. But I really hope they do put a 4K out before 2026. That's The Man Who Fell to Earth. Next up is a set of 5 movies. I would like to see all these 5 movies being released, and I can't imagine why they haven't been released on 4K at this point. It is the Planet of the Apes series, the original ones, featuring Planet of the Apes, Return to the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Now these, I think they go from about 1968 to 1975, I'm going to say, roundabouts. And I put the first one on, Planet of the Apes, and I also put the last one on, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and just check them out. Now, I've got to say that Planet of the Apes was much better than I thought it was. I knew it was nice and bright, and it was detailed, but it's really detailed. And when you see Charlton Heston, his face up close, it's got borderline 4K about it, and I thought, wow, this is stunning. And I know that Planet of the Apes has went through a good revamp recently, and all the other ones are out in 4K. So it seems a bit strange why they haven't went back to these yet, because they must have done something good with them when they did the 40th anniversary here. So they must have, the elements must be good. And the last one, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, is exactly the same, even better actually. The thing with that is when you can see the apes, which I think is a great makeup for the apes, it looks quite, you can quite see the makeup visually, where you can't really see it on Planet of the Apes. It's that good. But I'm not taking anything away from these movies. Me and Deborah love these movies. We watched them all the way through. Watched the TV series, which sadly got cancelled, so it doesn't really end properly. I did want to go and buy there was still like a TV cartoon series, which I didn't get, but I will get. So I do like it that much, and it would be great to see if they could put this out in 4K, because I do think that this would be a good seller, and also I do think it would look stunning, because those 2 movies, I would imagine the other ones look the same, look absolutely incredible. That's the Planet of the Apes. Next up is one of the first movies I checked out when I got my new TV, because I knew it looked that good on my old TV. I desperately wanted to see how good it could look on the OLED, and it is Dirty Harry. Now, I'm saying Dirty Harry, but I really want all of these out, a bit like Planet of the Apes. And this one here, I knew it was going to look good, and it really did. It lived up to everything. The cars, when they when Dirty Harry goes across and stops the people robbing the bank with his hot dog. And well, not with his hot dog, with his gun, and he's eating a hot dog at the time because he's that cool. And he delivers the famous line, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" This movie is just an absolute, it's just a blast. In fact, the whole series is, I just think they're absolutely brilliant. But this series it looks absolutely stunning on, and this is one of the ones where Clint Eastwood needs to get more stuff out in 4K. All the stuff I've got from him, I've seen from him, looks really, really nice. And he's such a big star, and he's got this character is like timeless. So I think that this is a no-brainer to get this set out, and it's went past anniversaries, but then again, it's not far. I think it's 71, so it's not really too far away from an anniversary. I think they could do one next year, like a set, or just even put this one out just to test the water. But this is by far, it's a great looking Blu-ray. Don't like these ones here. If they never came out in 4K, I could live with it. I could think, well, they've got really good, stunning Blu-ray presentations, but I just know from how good they look that these would just benefit from everything that 4K has to offer. So that's Dirty Harry. So speaking of anniversaries, next year is this movie's 60th anniversary. Now, I haven't done these in ranking, but this is definitely my number one. It's the movie when I thought about doing this video, it was the one that I jumped to straight away. And the movie is Cleopatra. Now, this has everything going for it. Now, it's got a huge running time of 3 hours 12 minutes, and this movie is spread over 2 discs on this set. So maybe they could put it on 1 disc, but this looks, the visual on this movie is like something you've never seen. I mean, a lot of these movies did get, I mean, it's all like proper scenes. It's not like any CGI, of course. And they had to build these sets, and the sets are humongous. Now, there's a documentary on here, which I would imagine would be the documentary on hopefully the next one. Or if you've got it and you haven't watched the documentary, you would have to see it. It tells you about how they made this movie and all of the things that went wrong. So Elizabeth Taylor Nettie died when she made this movie. She had pneumonia. And you can see maybe on here a tracheotomy scar where she had to have one so she could breathe. So she was really poorly, and this movie had dragged on for a long time. I think it's dragged on for a couple of years when she was making it, but she came back and she finished off the movie. I think they shot most of the movie in Britain, and they had to, or even Egypt, and they had to stop it and then come back to Britain or vice versa. I do know that it was fraught with problems, but they got the movie out in the end, and I think the movie is an exceptional movie. And I think it's all down to her performance in this movie. It's second to none. And I don't know if you can see it, but if you look at her eyes, she was famous for having these violet eyes. Now, she didn't have violet eyes. She just had a pigment in her eyes. They were blue anyway. But when there was a certain light put into it, they used to show up violet. Now, one of the things I thought about this movie when I first saw it, I thought, what's happened to her eyes? How come they look like that? And I looked it up, and it did tell you about this look of her eyes, which is one of the things that made me think I've got to see more of her movies. Now, I haven't got any more of her movies since I saw this movie, but I do want to get more stuff. That I do think she's a really good, amazing actress that's done a lot of good stuff, and people are kind of forget about her. I mean, I forgot about her at all, but when I got this, I was on this purely on the fact of how crazy the making of this movie was. That's why I wanted to check this out. I do think that this movie will look stunning. It does look stunning on Blu-ray. The set pieces in here are unbelievable. The picture is pin sharp, and also the colours in here look astounding. It's such a colourful movie. I mean, it's got all these scenes of this Roman Empire or Egyptian Empire. It's just crazy that they've done this. Now, to see this, it's got blue in the water. It's got the blue skies. It's got everything going for it that should look good on 4K. So it says that this movie was shot in 70mm. So I could imagine that this movie would have that much information in the print or the negatives that it could just bring out something absolutely spectacular. So for me, this is number one by a bullet if it's done correctly. And I can't see why this movie that's coming up for its 60th anniversary next year, had a 50th one in here, wouldn't have that. Maybe it's got its 4K already from the 50th, maybe. I'd love to see it do a new version of it with today's standards. So that's number one with a bullet. That's Cleopatra. So anyway, thanks for watching. You take care, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.
It's good.